Karen turned my inherited land into a community lot. I took it back and crushed the HOA. Have you ever inherited something precious, only to find someone else has claimed it as their own? That's exactly what happened to me when I discovered my late grandfather's land, 40 acres of rolling hills and wildflowers, had been turned into a community lot by a power-hungry HOA led by a woman named Karen. What followed was a battle of wills, a clash of principles, and a reckoning that shook the neighborhood to its core. My grandfather's land was more than just dirt and grass. It was his legacy, a quiet haven he'd tended for decades, filled with memories of fishing trips and late-night bonfires. When he passed, I inherited it, but I was overseas finishing a contract job. I hadn't set foot on the property in years, trusting it was safe, untouched. That was my first mistake. When I returned to the small town of Willow Creek, I drove out to the land, expecting to see the familiar oak grove and open fields. Instead, I found a manicured park with a sign reading Willow Estates Community Lot. Picnic tables, a playground, and even a small pavilion sat smugly on my land. My stomach dropped. This wasn't a mistake, it was theft. Fuming, I stormed to the HOA office in the nearby Willow Estates, a gated community of cookie-cutter homes. There, I met Karen, the HOA president, with her perfectly pressed blazer and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, you must be mistaken," she said, barely looking up from her clipboard. "This land belongs to the HOA. It's been part of our community plan for years." She handed me a glossy pamphlet outlining the community benefits of the lot, as if that justified anything. I told her the land was mine, inherited through a clear deed. Her response? A condescending laugh. "If you had a deed, we'd know about it. Maybe you should check your paperwork." Her tone implied I was either lying or incompetent. I left, shaking with rage, but determined to fight. The truth wasn't hard to uncover, but it was infuriating. My grandfather's land had never been part of Willow Estates. Public records confirmed my deed was valid, filed with the county years ago, but the HOA led by Karen had exploited my absence. They'd annexed the land without permission, claiming it as a community asset, after paying off a shady surveyor to fudge the boundaries. Worse, they'd been collecting dues from residents to maintain it, while fining anyone who questioned their authority. I found a lawyer, Emily, a sharp woman who dealt with HOA disputes before. "This is blatant overreach," she said, flipping through my documents. "But Karen's not going to back down easily. She's built her little empire on this." Emily uncovered more. Karen had a history of bullying residents into compliance, using fines and threats to keep them in line. One resident, Tom, a retired mechanic, told us how Karen had fined him $500 for planting a vegetable garden in his backyard, claiming it lowered property values. Another, Maria, said Karen had tried to foreclose on her home over unpaid dues during a medical crisis. The HOA's board was a clique of Karen's loyalists, rubber-stamping her every whim. But here's the twist. Tom revealed a secret that changed everything. Karen's own house, the crown jewel of Willow Estates, was built on a corner of my land. The surveyor's error bribe had placed her property line just over the boundary. She wasn't just stealing my land. She was living on it. Armed with this, Emily and I confronted the HOA at their next meeting. The room was packed with residents, most of whom looked nervous under Karen's watchful eye. I presented my deed, the county records, and a survey map showing the true boundaries. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Karen stood, face red, and declared the documents fabricated. She accused me of trying to destroy our community and rallied her supporters to shout me down. But Tom stood up, his voice shaking but firm. "I've got proof," he said, holding up old photos of the land before the HOA's takeover. clearly showing it was never part of their development. Maria followed, sharing her story of Karen's harassment. The room turned chaotic, residents arguing, some siding with Karen, others demanding answers. Karen doubled down, threatening legal action against me and anyone who slandered the HOA. She even called the sheriff, claiming I was trespassing on her community lot. The sheriff, a no-nonsense woman who'd grown up in Willow Creek, wasn't impressed. She reviewed my deed, then turned to Karen. "Ma'am, this man's got a legal claim. You'd better hope your paperwork's as good as his." It wasn't. Karen's team produced a flimsy agreement from a supposed previous owner, but it was riddled with inconsistencies and lacked a notarized signature. The sheriff escorted me off the property for now, but warned Karen to get her ducks in a row. The real confrontation came in court. Emily filed a lawsuit to reclaim my land and dissolve the HOA's claim. Karen's lawyer tried to paint me as a greedy outsider, but Emily dismantled their case with surgical precision. She presented the deed, the surveyor's confession, obtained after a little legal pressure, and testimonies from residents about Karen's strong-arm tactics. The judge was floored by the HOA's audacity. "This is a gross abuse of power," he said, ruling in my favor. The land was mine, and the HOA was ordered to remove all structures from it. But the kicker? Karen's house was partially on my property. I could have demanded it be torn down, but I offered her a deal: move the boundary or face demolition. Her face went white. She'd lose her precious status symbol either way. Karen's empire crumbled fast. The court ordered the HOA to pay my legal fees, nearly $100,000, bankrupting their funds. Residents, fed up with years of fines and threats, voted to dissolve the HOA entirely. Karen tried to rally her loyalists, but even they abandoned her when the truth about her house came out. She was forced to sell, unable to afford the legal battles or the boundary adjustment. The last I heard, she'd moved to a condo in another town, her reputation in tatters. The community lot was dismantled, playground gone, pavilion torn down. I restored the land to its natural state, planting wildflowers and rebuilding the old fishing pond. Tom and Maria became friends, helping me maintain it as a free space for locals to enjoy. No HOA required. But the fallout wasn't just about Karen. The residents who'd enabled her out of fear or apathy had to face their role. Some apologized, others moved away, unable to meet their neighbors' eyes. The town learned a hard lesson about unchecked power and the cost of staying silent. In the end, I got my grandfather's land back, but more than that, I gave Willow Creek a chance to start over. The hills bloom again, free from Karen's control, a testament to fighting for what's right. It wasn't just about land, it was about standing up to bullies who hide behind rules and titles. I'm no hero, just a guy who wouldn't let a legacy be stolen. If you've ever faced a Karen or an HOA, what would you have done? Share your thoughts. Where do you draw the line between community rules and personal freedom?